Sara had always been a solitary soul. Her small, quaint cottage nestled deep in the woods was her sanctuary, far away from the noise and chaos of the city. It was a place where she could find solace, surrounded by the serene beauty of nature. One chilly autumn evening, Sara decided to take a drive into town for some groceries. Her rusty old car rumbled to life, and she started down the winding, tree-lined road. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the pavement. As Sara drove along the dimly lit road, a sense of unease washed over her. She glanced in her rearview mirror and noticed a car behind her, its headlights piercing through the gathering darkness. She thought nothing of it at first, assuming it was just another traveler on this desolate road. But as she turned onto the narrow, gravel-covered path leading to town, the car behind her followed. Sara's heart began to race. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She considered turning back, heading home to her cottage, but something in the pit of her stomach urged her to continue into town. The car behind her continued to tail her, its headlights now uncomfortably close. Panic gripped Sara, and she decided to make a sudden turn onto a side road, hoping to lose her pursuer. She sped down the unfamiliar, winding path, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Minutes turned into what felt like hours as Sara navigated the labyrinthine backroads. The car continued to follow, seemingly unrelenting. Fear gnawed at her, and she could feel her pulse quickening with each passing moment. Desperation drove Sara to make yet another turn, this time onto a narrow dirt trail leading deeper into the forest. The car behind her followed without hesitation. She was now in the heart of the woods, surrounded by towering trees that blocked out the moonlight. Her headlights cut through the darkness, revealing nothing but the winding trail ahead. Suddenly, Sara's car lurched to a halt. The engine sputtered and died, leaving her in pitch darkness. Panic set in as she fumbled for her phone, praying for a signal. But there was nothing, only silence and the oppressive heat of the forest. As her ears adjusted to the darkness, Sara noticed something chilling. In the distance, she could see the faint glow of candles and hear eerie chants carried by the wind. She couldn't make out the source, but it seemed to come from deeper within the woods. With no other options, Sara stepped out of her car, trembling with fear. She cautiously followed the eerie sounds, her footsteps barely audible on the forest floor. The chants grew louder, and the glow of the candles intensified. Sara's heart pounded in her chest as she came upon a clearing in the woods. What she saw before her froze her in terror. In the center of the clearing, a group of hooded figures stood in a circle, their hands raised, palms facing up. In the center of the circle lay a grotesque altar, adorned with strange symbols and surrounded by burning candles. As Sara watched in horror, a guttural voice emanated from the center of the circle, speaking in a language she couldn't understand. Shadows danced around the figures, and the air grew thick with an unnatural energy. Realization struck her like a bolt of lightning. She had stumbled upon a demonic ritual, and she was the unwitting intruder. Fear overcame her, but she couldn't tear her eyes away from the nightmarish scene unfolding before her. As the chanting reached a crescendo, a dark figure materialized above the altar, its form shifting and contorting in unnatural ways. It was a being beyond her wildest nightmares, and its malevolence was palpable. The hooded figures began to chant louder, their voices now filled with a fanatical fervor. Sara knew she had to escape, but she was paralyzed with terror. She took a step back, snapping a twig beneath her foot. The hooded figures turned as one, their faces hidden in the shadows of their hoods. Their eyes, however, glowed with an otherworldly intensity. Sara's heart raced, and she turned and fled, crashing through the underbrush as she ran for her life. Behind her, the chanting grew louder, and the forest seemed to come alive with malevolent energy. Branches reached out to grasp at her, and strange, ghostly shapes flickered at the edge of her vision. Sara didn't know how she found her way back to her car, but when she did, she wasted no time. The engine roared to life, and she sped away from the nightmare in the woods, her heart pounding, her mind filled with the horror she had witnessed. She never spoke of that night to anyone, fearing that the demonic presence she had stumbled upon might find her once more. But the memory of that chilling encounter haunted her dreams, a reminder of the darkness that could lurk just beyond the edge of reality.